Welcome to the January 22nd, 2019 meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mrs. Russell?
Here.
Mayor Cole?
Here.
We have a quorum.
The next item on the agenda is presentations, and we have a presentation for Quilting for Cause tonight, so I'm going to ask the council to come on down. Rose, you're just going to...
I think Rose wants to speak something.
Well, we're going to let Rose speak after. Rose doesn't know she's getting the proclamation.
A lovely gift.
Rose and all the ladies that are here for Quilting for Cause, come on up.
You gotta bring a quilt. Yeah, bring a quilt.
Maybe not.
Just here to stare at us.
Quilting for Cause has done such great work in the community, so the council thought it would be a nice gesture for us to actually read the proclamation into our meeting tonight. So I'll read the proclamation. It says, whereas Quilting for Cause is a community organization dedicated to bringing warmth to bodies and souls to those in need. And whereas Quilting for Cause began with a single donation of fabric to founder Rose Phelan, who made handmade quilts, which were hand-delivered to the homeless in New York City by her husband, Joe Phelan. And whereas Quilting for Cause has grown to include 100 volunteers who have made over 1,700 quilts in the last 2 years and have been distributed to those in need across the country, in Canada, Haiti, and Guatemala. And whereas recognition for Quilting for a Cause includes the 2018 Governor Jefferson Award for volunteer leadership. Now, therefore, Mayor David Cole and members of Township Council hereby recognize Quilting for Cause and its founder, Rose Phelan, for their outstanding efforts in bringing warmth and beauty to those in need in our region and across the country and beyond. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. 1777, as a matter of fact.
So Rose originally wanted to come and just, speak, so we're going to let Rose speak now.
All right, got a note, thank you. Yeah, she has a camera.
Absolutely, and you gotta hold the quilts.
Okay. So we're 2 years old. We were supposed to have our sew-a-thon last week, but we got weather reported out. We didn't really get snowed out, but we canceled on the advice of many. So our very first year, we made 703 quilts. The next year, last year, 1,007. And now, so far, this month alone, we've made 61, which, if this keeps going, I know there's more out there. That's just, I don't count them until they're physically in my hands. Our sew-a-thon was postponed, but we have rescheduled for February 23rd and 24th at Holy Spirit School. It's an overnighter, so anybody who has to work or has any other reason not to come, you got 24 hours to get there.
Rich?
Yeah. There's a lot of people in town that we have to thank. And not in a million years should I think this would ever turn into this. This has been unbelievable. Last summer, we took a photo at Greenview Park of 160 quilts that were going to Giant Stadium. They had a very special day there. They sent buses and picked up 150 people off the street in Newark and gave them a special day, and everybody got one of our quilts. Pequannock Fire Company number 2 came, and they sent their, what do you call that thing? The tower. And Joe went, I don't know, way up there so high I couldn't even look, and took this gorgeous picture. And when we put it on Facebook, we got responses from all over the world. England, Costa Rica, it was unbelievable. Which in turn gives us more fabric and more everything, more thread. And somebody left a bolt of fabric on my front porch today. Now, mind you, we had just gone to our storage space. I'll get to that today. It's 150 yards of fabric. I can't even lift this thing. I don't know, with no name, I don't know where it came from. Last year in the spring, we started asking everybody we knew we needed storage space, because Joe and I, our living room, like 1/3 of it was literally piled to the ceiling. And Rich Phelan generously stepped up and offered us this great space at Hayden Corporation in Wayne. So we have all our stuff in there. They came and picked it up because we paid for a storage unit briefly. So we are very appreciative.
Bring it on.
We are. We're going to bring it on.
We also ship for you guys.
Yes, I'm getting to that. So we are trying to get some of our quilts in all 50 states to bring recognition to the homelessness problem. Unfortunately, there isn't a state in this country that doesn't have this problem. Hawaii being one that has a huge problem. People somehow get themselves there because it's warm.
California's the same thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful. So, again, Hayden Corporation said they will ship them anywhere in the United States, and we took full advantage and sent them to 26 states. Tomorrow, we'll add Washington. We'll make it 27. Every Friday morning, we go to Acme Country Fabric. She has this giant table that we can lay the quilts out to pin, and it's the right height, so it's not back-breaking, so we're really appreciative to her. All the restaurants in town feed all the volunteers every time we meet, even on short notice. Holy Spirit School lets us sew there. Now at Good Counsel, the second Tuesday of every month, we're going to sew there. And they're going to give us a little bit of storage space to keep our iron. And
I'm jealous.
Are you jealous? You can come there. But it won't be as big as the conference room that we're going to sew in at Hayden. A lot of sponsors in town for our sew-a-thon. We have prizes and the whole thing. So a lot of the business in town gave us that. We've also sewn at the First Reformed Church at Grace Chapel. Pequannock Valley Rotary has been very generous. They bought us batting at Acme, and they gave us a donation, and Pat made us this king-size quilt, and they're going to raffle it off at their Valentine's dance, which is their biggest fundraiser, so we can buy more batting. Our quilts are on display at the library, and we're going to have an open house and a reception on January 31st at 7 o'clock. You can come and meet some of our volunteers and some of the people that sew those. People have been requesting that we make quilts and sell them, which we haven't done up till now, but we do have some that are for sale, and the proceeds from that will buy more batting at Acme. It's kind of a big circle. I spoke to somebody from the Historic Society, and we're hoping that we can make some quilts for the Martin Berry House when the house gets to that point, so that'll be fun. There's no way this could have happened without a town like Pequannock. I really didn't know. I didn't have this in my head to grow it this big, and I didn't know how well it would be received. You know, we don't see people sleeping on the street in Pequannock. We're kind of a little bit far removed. Not that we don't have people in need. So for this to grow so big, and for people, I have a waiting list now of 5 different places that want quilts. And people that want to help us in various ways. It's overwhelming. It's unbelievable. And we are all very, very grateful. And this is the most rewarding thing I've ever done, other than marrying and having my children. But this is just, I can't tell you the feeling it gives you to make these quilts and to give them out. And you can see what everybody has. We've really kicked it up a notch. Gemma, show that quilt that you're holding. Somebody last March gave us...
Wow. Turn it around so Frank can...
Yeah.
There you go.
So we just gave, where did I give the 20 baby quilts? Charlene Mason. There's a school, I believe it's Plainfield High School. They have a program for students that are parents. They have a daycare there. So we gave them 20 quilts for the 20 babies that are in this daycare, so the mothers can finish their education.
I have a funny story to tell. The UPS, when we UPS this stuff out, my name is on there, Rich Valen, Hayden Corporation. I get the thank you letters.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And we thank you. We thank you. So we had one that was lost for the longest time. You sent to someone in California. It was a Pequannock resident who lived out there, and everything around them burned down but their house. So they have no neighbors, they have no pharmacy, they have no grocery store, and they gave them a new P.O. box, and it just never got there. Well, finally,
UPS P.O. box.
Finally, they found her, and she got the quilt. So we're grateful, and she's really grateful to have something from Pequannock. So really, I just came to say thank you to everybody, and we really appreciate that proclamation. That's sweet. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for all the great work you guys are doing. All right, next on the agenda at this time, are there any reports or volunteers serving our community? No? Next item on the agenda is public comment. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized and come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record.
Rose wants to go first. I'm back. Rosemary Fallon, 76 3rd Street. The other night, we had spent the weekend with no heat. Something broke on our boiler, and it took a long time to get it apart. The other night, when we were sound asleep, the smoke detectors went off, screaming. There's 14 in our house. They're hardwired. It was, like, terrifying. Grabbed the dogs right out of the house, called 911. Everybody was there in a minute to find out there was no fire in our house. They left. They went to another fire. Tom Murphy came back because they went off again. Nothing's leaking, no gas, no CO. Faulty fire alarm. We did not know, and I'm embarrassed to say, that fire alarms only last for 10 years. So
even if they're hardwired.
Even if they're hardwired.
So the one going off made everybody else go off?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're hardwired, all of them go
And the
off.
one that started was by the boiler where we had the problem. The plumber said something about a fan or, I don't know. So check your smoke detectors and tell everybody else to check their smoke detectors. So we don't have to get the fire department out of the house at 4 o'clock in the morning.
414.
And I'm so grateful. And the police department, I mean, you hang up the phone and there was an officer there. And whoever answered the phone when I called 911 while I'm, freaking out, it was really frightening for, you don't know if you're going to lose your house or what's going on. So I'm really grateful to everybody, and please check your smoke detectors.
And Rose.
Who's calling?
Me. I was going to say, the one thing, you might know this, but just so everybody knows, I think it was effective January 1st, if not before, the fire inspector in town told me that it's now a requirement that the smoke detectors have to have a sealed battery, and they're a 10-year life.
Yeah.
Some people were just using smoke detectors with interchangeable batteries, but it's a new requirement now,
Yeah.
especially when you sell a house and stuff.
Yeah, we learned a lot in the last few days. So I put it on Facebook, even though we're a little embarrassed that we didn't know.
Rose, I'll tell you another thing, because your call came in at 414. the house fire came in at 418, and if it wasn't for them being already rolling, they may have lost that other house. But because they were already rolling,
That's the only thing that makes us feel better.
Right.
That,
they're extremely lucky that your smoke detectors went off.
yeah, I guess there's a reason for everything, but really check your smoke detectors and tell everybody else too. And just another reminder why we're so lucky to live in this town. Nobody's ever called for help and not gotten it. So, and we are really appreciative.
We are very grateful to all of our first responders, so.
Yeah, the first aid squad was there too. Everybody was there. We got everybody, the whole town was out of bed.
Well, thank you. Anyone else? Jackie?
Melissa, really quick, do all the new ones have that? All the new smoke alarms have that specific enclosed?
Well, let's hope that the stores have taken the old ones off the shelf. I'm not sure. I just know in the past, sellers, to save a couple of bucks instead of spending the $16 or $18.
I didn't know until I read it that Rose.
Right. They were buying the real cheapy ones for like $6 or $8, and you can't. They're not regulation.
They don't have any for $6 or $8 anymore.
Right. They took them off the shelf.
Just buy 14.
So I'm Jackie Stavala, 7 Material Place, Pumpton Plains, and I got our little, that paper that we got for the water, the important information about your drinking water, and the, all the regulations and stuff that we're supposed to be meeting. I spoke to Adam today, and I wrote everybody an email, so I'm just going to read the email that I wrote to everybody. I hope you don't mind. I just said, "Hi all, I have concerns regarding our most recent Pequannock drinking water report, January 2019. After seeing the elevated levels of trihalomethane, TTHM, and haloacetic acid, HAA, exceeding the 80 UG per liter guidelines, I did some research and made many phone calls. I found out that THM and HAA are byproducts of disinfection when chlorine treatment reacts naturally with organic material found in water, such as decaying vegetation. And we all know we want to chlorinate the water so we don't get like dysentery. So it's a side product. Studies show that THM and HAA can increase the risk of cancer, miscarriage, cardiovascular effects, low birth weight, liver kidney damage, central nervous system problems, also while affecting your eyes and reproductive system. While I do have a whole house filter system in my own home along with a water softener, neither one of these eliminate THMs and HAAs in the water we drink and bathe in. Just so you know, also THM and HAAs are not only entered through the body through ingestion by drinking it, they can be absorbed into your body through inhalation via a nice steamy shower, which we all like to take. The vaporization is breathed in, and it also can be absorbed through your skin while showering. And then I went back to our water report starting back in 2011, and the THM levels that exceeded 80 UGs per liter, respectively 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. We used the Newark and the Pequannock Water Company. While some were only relatively small, 88 over the 80% that we're supposed to have, some of the numbers went up to 152, almost double. These numbers were pulled from our town website. You and your families drink and bathe in this water. I know many things cross your desk, and as always, I always appreciate everything you do. I know I'm a nudge, but budget, important things, life, but water's essential. Clean water is important to people who want to buy homes here, stay in Pequannock, and resale value on our homes. Clean water is what I implore you to work to attain as soon as possible. Feet to the fire on this one. And I just came forward because I know it's not like, oh my God, we're Flint, Michigan, but it is elevated. I was told a lot of different things after I spoke with you, Adam. I talked to Mark Struble, and he gave me a little insight of what Newark, the water people, are trying to do to improve it. I did. I called EPA, I called different towns of what we can do, and I appreciate, but I just feel that this is something that's, it's not other things that I've come here to complain about. This is something like, I'm freaking out, and I appreciate every single one of you really looking into it. I know there's a lot of other things that each person finds important, but drinking water is, I can't go and buy Poland Spring to bathe in it. Right. I mean, I could, but I really don't want to. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone in the audience listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Adam, do we know what the root cause of it is? Is it because of us blending with Newark, or?
We
have the water.
Mr. Zavala mentioned that we have Mr. Struble, the licensed operator, and Mr. Coriel, the health officer, so if you guys can come up to the table. Generally speaking, from a large-scale perspective, there's really two sources for potable water in the state of New Jersey. There's subsurface and then there's surface. So subsurface is a well, surface is a reservoir. Typically, in a situation where you have surface water, as was mentioned, you have issues with organics. Stuff can get into a reservoir, there can be algae plumes, it changes temperature, there's fish, there's wildlife. It's a living, breathing thing. So oftentimes, or all the time, there's chemicals that are added to the water to keep us from getting cholera, dysentery, other things like that. The most frequent of which is chlorine. So the trihalomethanes are a derivative of chlorine, and there is a threshold of 80 micrograms per liter that if you exceed that for an average, the DEP requires a notice to be disseminated to the water customers, which is what's happened. So that's what triggered the notice to go out to the community. When you have water that's underground, you typically have issues with minerals, so you have hardness and sodium and other things like that. Back in 2010, 11, 12, the township had a lot of discussion about the fact that the water that was coming out of the wells had sodium, which is another public health issue, hardness, which is a customer issue, because if you have hard water, you're losing your dishwasher and other appliances that water flows through. So the decision was made, okay, let's blend water, another source, with our hard water in an effort to kind of mitigate the problems of each. And that was working pretty well until we had an issue with the water that is coming from the city of Newark's water supply system, which has an issue with the organics, which is why they were adding a lot of chlorine to it, causing the breakdown of chlorine, which ultimately resulted in the THMs, I'll take the easy way out, trihalomethanes in the water. So that's kind of the brief introduction. The notice was sent out to everyone as was required by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Coriel and Mr. Struble just to kind of go over some of the general health aspects of it, because I certainly am not a water operator, nor am I a health officer. So I'm happy that these gentlemen were able to join us.
Well, I can at least talk on the sampling program. We've been sampling, we sample for a litany of parameters for our public water supply. THM and halocidics are only one of them. We've been sampling for them under EPA regulations, I guess, for the last 9 years, I think since 2013. The way we sample is we have to take THMs are elevated over time and temperature in a water system, so we have to take the samples where we believe the water is at its farthest from its point source. So typically we'll take the samples down in the Pequannock section near Grow-Right, Beaverbrook Road, because the longer it's in the water, the more time it has to react and the higher count you're going to get. Well, THMs will be taken 4 times a year at those 4 different locations. Each total trihalomethane has 4 chemicals itself within there, and you add them up and you report the result. When you exceed a result, when you get 4 samples in a row, you divide it, and that by divide it gets to 80 parts per million or parts per billion or micrograms per liter. It's the same thing. Once that's exceeded, you violated the standard. This is the first time that we've ever exceeded that standard where we've gotten 4 over a course of a year, high samples. We have gotten and we reported the highest samples at times on our consumer conference reports where a single sample could be high or an operational value could be high, but we never exceeded 4 over a 1 year period. When that happens at that level, I think Mark can speak on that. There are different notification requirements. If it was something that needed to be corrected immediately, that's called a Tier 1 notification. We would have notified you within 24 hours. I think you probably typically see that like on News 12 when there's boil water orders, there's breakage, and you get in a line, so that's an imminent problem. Tier 2s are operational values that over long periods of time could have adverse health effects, and THMs and LOCs absolutely could have that. And the utility has approximately, they do have 1 year to look at what's causing that and how to correct that, and that's what we're doing right now with the city of Newark. And Tier 3 is a low-level violation where we would notify each year in our consumer confidence reports that you get and you read them, I hope, because we send them out each year. So that's generally the operation. Halocetics and THMs can cause health effects. They can cause birth defects. They are attributable to cancer. They're not good to have in water supplies, but unfortunately, water has organic matter, especially surface supplies, leaves, animals, dirt, algae, weeds, weeds that are growing in it. They contribute to the organic, and when you chlorinate, the chlorine will react with that. The regulations are reviewed every 6 years by the federal government. About 6 or 7 years ago, they used to be at 100 parts per billion, and they've reduced them to 80. Some of that doesn't really have to do with the correlation between disease. Sometimes they've reduced the limit because the technology to treat advances. So, if you can reduce it down, they'll reduce it down, even though there may not be a direct correlation with disease preventions.
So could I ask Mark, what's Nork going to do about it?
Yeah. Well, I was sent a letter from Nork, if you want me to read it.
I think everybody in here wants you to read it.
Yeah, the city of Newark, because they, and the DEP also contacted me that Newark has had some high levels of TTHMs. They sent me this letter of what they're going to do about it, and I actually spoke to the operator up there this morning. He said March 1st is when they're really going to start implementing some of their plans. But this is from the city of Newark. It has been determined that the pre-chlorination leg of the treatment train is not adding a significant benefit to the CT and microbe inactivation. Therefore, effective as this writing, the city will be reducing pre-chlorine dosages to 2017 levels. This should reduce TTHM's formation potential and TTHM levels in the city's distribution system while still meeting the chlorine contact requirements. The city has performed jar tests using potassium permanganate as a primary oxidant instead of pre-chlorine at the head of the plant. Results show a significant reduction in TTHMs. The city will be requesting authorization from the DEP, I believe they have got it now, to conduct a plant scale test at the Pequannock Water Treatment Plant within the next several weeks. The plant scale test will use potassium permanganate in a pre-treatment as a primary initial oxidant, followed by a low dosage of chlorine fed to the filters, and then chlorine will be fed in the post position leaving the plant. The city has determined that it can reduce THMs further by moving its first customer further downstream of the plant. We are the first customer. This will allow the plant to get the benefit of additional detention time in the pipeline, reduce post-chlorine dosages, and hence lower TTMs. TTMs still meet their chlorine contact time, so they are working on it.
So Mark, you're an expert. I know you are an expert. Do you think they'll be able to solve the problem?
Yes.
Okay. Your word is golden in my book.
No, I believe what they're doing will solve the problem. Now, he said, you might not see the results overnight.
No, you won't.
You won't. I think the next time we test is March 4th. Mm-hmm. So they're really kind of starting this. They got DEP approval. They were starting March 1st. We're testing March 4th, so we'll see what the results are. They have been going down. They said they've been trying to, mess around a little bit with things, but some of the things they needed DEP approval before they could change their complete treatment process. But I think within the next 6 months, the next couple tests, you're going to see them go down.
And Mark, you referenced Pequannock Water Plant, just so everyone knows, it's not our water plant.
No, it's the one in, right, Charlottesburg.
On Route 23 in West Milford?
Yes, Charlottesburg they call it, but West Milford, yes.
And I know they're articulated within the notice that went out to all the customers and the homeowners, but can you just quickly run over the steps that the township has taken that can help mitigate?
Yeah, well, we're doing what we can on our leg of it too, and it is in the notice. We have, we always are trying to upgrade our infrastructure, so there is a new water tank on Mountain Ave. It does have a mixer in it. It's a passive mixer. It will help with disinfection residuals. We also took a major valve cleaning and exercise program to make sure all our water valves are in the open position so the water is flowing freely. We do a hydrant flushing program. I'm sure you see the guys out there at night. We do that twice a year. We could do it, maybe add one more time to do it if we think, if we think that's necessary. But I think on our end, operationally, we're doing everything we can. And I think, it's up to Newark. I think they will do it. I mean, they're really required by the DEP to do it, so.
A new water line from Mountain Ave to Sunset was also installed.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of infrastructure upgrades here, so it's really important to keep your infrastructure, upgraded, and the town does a great job with that, so. I think we're going to see results that are going to be more compliant, especially if Newark does what they say they're going to do, and I believe they're going to do it, so. We'll see. Testing is the way you find out, so.
And just so everyone in the audience knows, I mean, we know how important the issues of our water is. And we'll continue to work with Mark and Pete and the water department and the health department to make sure that we can do whatever we can to, correct it. But unfortunately, we gotta, Newark is the main cause of it, so.
True.
We're going to keep our finger on the pulse with Newark and make sure that...
I do contact Jerry periodically to make sure that they're moving ahead. He had promised me March 1st they're really going to start implementing some stuff, and he says, you watch, the TTHMs are going to go down, so...
Can I just ask one more little part of that?
You want to come back up, Jackie?
Sorry. I know we get our bulk water supply mixed with, the Pequannock and the Newark, and I guess the contract goes till 2021. Let's hope it doesn't, because I know that you're very diligent with this, but is there a way that we can switch to the Wanacue? I talked to the Commissioner of North Jersey Water Supply, and he seemed to think that, I guess we're paying $1,000 per 2,000 per million gallons or something, and I've only done this since 3 o'clock this morning, so I've only got so much information, because I can only be on the phone for so long. It seems cheaper, and they don't seem to have the same levels that we have. I mean, is it something that we can entertain down the road?
Depends on where the piping is, right?
Yeah,
I think it is accessible to us as per, you would think he's a water commissioner.
We know that it's up by Cedar Crest, so we would have to somehow...
Cedar Crest numbers are totally different from ours.
We'd have to get it somehow under 287.
Yeah. Well...
I think to the point of potable water supply, there's nothing that we wouldn't consider.
Right.
Obviously, you need to make a decision based upon, how it would need to be implemented and what kind of timeframes are involved. To Mark's point, hopefully this gets addressed and it gets addressed quickly, and we won't have to.
And you'll give us
But of course, we're talking about things, we're looking at things, we're reviewing interconnections, so there's nothing that wouldn't be considered when it comes to making sure the drinking water system.
So Adam, can I ask a favor? Can the council be notified of what those test results are come March 4th?
Yes, the council and the public, once we get...
You won't see them for a couple of weeks. After that.
Yeah, we want everybody...
Middle of March or so.
But we don't want to wait a whole year and then find out.
No. You'll know sometime in March what the results from the last...
Okay.
Again, I appreciate...
So, let me ask you a question. What is going to be the method of getting that information out the same way we did this information?
The notice was sent to the council moments before it was placed upon the township's website and delivered to the post office to be sent out. So once it was finalized, it went right out. The information, the cost to send it to everybody's home is fairly significant. So we may, obviously we can send it in an electronic format without any cost at all. We may post it on the website if it's good news.
Okay.
We'll explore whether or not we can send out another mailing, but I don't want to spend good money that could be dedicated to something else.
Okay.
Posting it on the website probably would be the best way to do it.
Yeah. And we can get Colleen to snag it from there and put it on Facebook.
Or we can tell Jackie. Tell Jackie.
Any other public comment? Can you come on up to the microphone? But let me, you can come up, but then we're going to ask if there's any other public comment for the water, because if there's not, we're going to let Mark and Pete go back and sit.
Hi, I'm Gemma Potts on Tutu Boulevard. Thank you very much for all your hard work on this. I know it's quite a daunting task. My question is, I know that we mix Pequannock water with water from Newark, correct?
Yes.
I'm correct with that. Is there a way to, until this problem is mitigated, to boost the amount we put in and diminish the Newark amount, just so that the proportion then of pollutant is not as heavy carrying it as it's coming from Newark, it has a certain level, but if we dilute it more with Pequannock, our water table seems to be extremely high right now, so the wells should be well supplied.
Yeah, it's an option. We discussed it with Adam today. There's options that we can maybe reduce.
That could be a more immediate resolution to it, rather than having to wait on Newark to do something. Because I understand they have a lot of other issues in Newark, including pollution of lead and schools and other things, but this could be something immediately for us that may help. Thank you.
And just to clarify that it's the City of Newark's water system, it's not actually coming from Newark. It's just infrastructure that they own all over the place. So, the last person mentioned the issues that Newark system is having, they're not having that in our end. So I just want to alleviate any concern that could be raised by that. Newark is unfortunately has a lot of challenges these days.
Yeah.
There's 7 reservoirs, I believe, that are water?
Yeah.
7 reservoirs?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Bob?
Sorry. Question. I know the idea is you're mixing.
Mr. Morley,
I'm sorry.
Bob Morley, 4 Jacksonville Road, Compton Plains. Sorry. We're mixing with, you're boosting with the Newark water to lessen essentially the calcium content in the water. Now, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that the calcium content basically shot up when we built 287 and knocked all the limestone out, and it's just continuing to leach into the system. That would be my guess. Is there anything that can be done to actually mitigate that versus mixing with the water?
When they looked at the mixing station, they did look at treating a large water source. And the discharge rate going into TBSA, the discharge going into TBSA was too high. There's no way to discharge the water in order to get the hardness down to an acceptable level. So that was not an option, but that was looked at. And you still have, and the salts, the driving issue was not really, the hardness was like Adam said, was a customer issue about spotting, but the sodium was high for hypertension control for residents, and the only way you can get rid of that is physical dilution with a softer, with a supply that has less sodium.
Okay. I know Jackie had said something about, you guys had said something about running under 287, but given the status of the existing infrastructure, we just had, 2 breaks last year?
2 breaks, 1 spot.
Yep.
And chances are we're going to have more of them in the very near future, because when something starts like that...
Don't put the whammy on it, Mr. Morley, please.
What's that?
Don't put the whammy on it. It's cold out there.
Okay. On the off chance that... how much of the structure breaking is going to involve getting contaminants into the system? Because once you've opened it, I mean, I'm sure there's weaknesses in the system, because I know that's how it is, and stuff actually gets into the system from the outside, right? I'm assuming there are. If we broke once, it's going to break somewhere.
Well, that's more,
I think that's
more biological, not organic or mineral. That's usually where you get the 24-hour notice. Boil the water, there's a break because you're worried about biological contamination.
Yeah, but a lot of times the stuff just seeps in, so that's what I'm concerned about. If it's weaknesses on joints and things like that.
Well, you can talk about it. It's under pressure. It usually goes the other way, unless there's a fire. And you get a negative draw. You can talk.
You talking about the infrastructure at North Line?
Well, no, on our line.
We really don't have many. Really, look at it. Our infrastructure is pretty good. It's mostly asbestos that we have, transite lines.
So what caused the two breaks?
What caused those two breaks is the type of soil that those are over by Jacksonville, by the greenhouses.
Oh, by the greenhouses.
That soil is just black muck.
Oh, I'm familiar with this. Yes.
Yeah, so we put a different type of pipe in there instead of the normal.
It was an HDPE pipe that was put in there. That was put in like 1984, with Jacksonville's booster station pipe. You know, there was a failure on it. That's actually not transite over there. That's ductile iron. So.
Ductile iron.
But we went with plastic.
Plastic
for the fix.
For the fix, yeah. That's the new range HDPE pipe.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with it. Okay, I'm just, so you said, so there really isn't much you can do about the calcium, but you're actually more concerned about even the sodium than the calcium. And there's no way of doing that other than diluting it.
Diluting it? Yes.
All right.
So we kind of have lowered the calcium levels. They were 260 at one point, I believe. We're down to about 170. So we have lowered that. The sodium's been under 50, so.
And is the continual high water table meant anything, or is it just, you don't think so? All right. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, Frank? We let them go.
Frank Spazzeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue. Just a suggestion. I know you're talking about putting it on the website, but some of the elders don't have computers. My suggestion would be put it on Channel 77 as a bulletin. They watch TV, but they won't want a computer.
Will do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good idea, Frank.
Any other questions regarding the water? And then I'll take a couple other public comment. Mark and Pete, thank you very much for coming. I just asked Adam, you guys are free to go, being that you've been here since 7 o'clock this morning, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public
Thanks,
comments? Not missing anybody behind the pole? Okay.
Nope.
There being no additional public comments, we'll continue on with the agenda. The next item on the agenda is manager's report. Mr. Brewer. Rose, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Within the package that were distributed to Township Council, there's a memo on the 2019 budget and the budget meeting schedule. I had hoped to have the budget books, appropriations for preliminary distribution for you tonight. Unfortunately, obviously, other things came up. So they will be out this week, though. You have my word. Moving forward, there is a statutory process that the township has to comply with in terms of its budget introduction and ultimate adoption. Based upon past experience, I drafted up some prospective dates, and if they are acceptable to everyone, we will move forward, and I'll ask Ms. Marsh if she wouldn't mind publishing them, and then we'll proceed with the budget process.
Anybody have any problems with the dates?
I will try to work around the dates, because I'll be traveling in February and March, but I should be good. I'll work around it.
So is everyone good for the 23rd?
I'm good.
Saturday?
That's the best one for me.
I have a conflict, but I'll change that so I can be here. All right, so I guess we're going to publish them.
And just for the benefit of the public's understanding, the initial review and discussion of the budget globally will be on Saturday, February 23rd, beginning at 9 a.m. We'll have a discussion on the capital budget Tuesday, March 12th at 6 p.m. prior to the council meeting. We'll have a discussion on the utilities budgets and carry over from capital if necessary, Tuesday, March 19th at 6 p.m. And then a follow-up meeting if needed, Tuesday, March 26th, 2019 at 6 p.m. The goal will be to have the budget introduced March 26th and potentially adopted on May 14th, concluding the 2019 budget process. If anybody has any questions about the municipal budget, I really like talking about it, and it's a lot of fun. So feel free to call me in my office. I'd be happy to discuss any questions anybody may have. That's all I have in this report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public hearing, and we have no public hearing scheduled for this evening. And then the next is ordinances for introduction. There are no ordinances scheduled at this time. Next on the agenda is resolutions. Ms. Marsh.
consideration this evening, beginning with Resolution R 2019-43, authorizing the purchase as the procurement agent for Five Towns Dial-A-Ride of two 2019 Ford Transit 150 10-passenger cargo vans from Route 20 through Auto Mall through the Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council. 2019-44, authorizing a professional services agreement between the Township of Pequannock and One Earth Planning and Development for affordable housing administration and urban planning services. 2019-45, authorizing a contract for professional services to Spinelli and Pinto Consulting, LLC for open space services. 2019-46, authorizing purchases from the Pequannock Township Open Space Recreation Farmland and Historic Preservation Trust Fund. 2019-47, authorizing the Municipal Alliance grant application for the fiscal year 2020. 2019-48, authorizing a mid-block crosswalk on Newark Pompton Turnpike. And 2019-49, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the January 17th, 2019 bill list and the January 17th, 2015 FEMA elevation escrow list.
Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
Yes, just a quick question on R 2019-43. So Adam, are we adding to Dial-A-Ride or are we replacing vehicles?
My understanding is we're replacing the two vehicles. Some is rotating out of service and there are others rotating. These will be new. Just to clarify for the benefit of the resolution, because we act as the procurement agent for Dial-A-Ride, is authorizing us to exceed the bid threshold by using a cooperative pricing council, but the funds are coming from Dial-A-Ride Trust, which is the benefit of the 5 towns that use the service.
Got it, okay. That's all my questions.
Any other questions?
And I was just going to mention the crosswalk on Newark Pompton Turnpike. That's the one that we've been talking about for a long time in front of the mall that
Correct.
even came out of the study they did years ago.
Correct.
Okay.
And the resolution was at the request of the county engineer.
Right, okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make that motion to adopt Resolution R 2019-43 through R 2019-49.
And I'll second it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes, but I will abstain on bill list for anything that pertains to me.
Okay.
Okay. And Mayor Cole?
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is items for discussion. Water rates. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor. As has been discussed in the past, the water utility is, in essence, like an enterprise fund that operates from rates derived from the customers, not from the tax base. The previous rate increase was in about 7 years ago for the per gallon rate. The fixed rate increase hasn't been increased in over 25 years. We've discussed some things this evening. There needs to be improvement and upgrade in the water system. Most notably, over the last couple of years, there was about $6+ million in upgrades, including the new water tank on Mountain Avenue on the other side of 287, the transmission line to connect it, the emergency that had to be adopted in order to fund the repair for the water main break. So, we've had some discussions over the past 2 or 3 months about the fact that we're going to have to examine water rates. In an effort to do that, a working group was put together that consisted of myself, the finance officer, the township's financial planner, the township's bond counsel, the operations gentlemen that were here to discuss the best way to do that. So within the township council's packets, under a cover memo from me, there are some documents. Simply put, for the benefit of discussion, 2 scenarios were prepared to derive the revenue necessary to operate the water utility. There is a scenario that includes an increase in the fixed rate or the meter charge, which is currently $5. to $29 per quarter, and a modest or nominal increase in the per gallon rate. And then there's a second scenario, which I refer to as the per gallon cost emphasis approach, that includes a more significant increase in the cost per gallon and a less significant increase in the meter rate charge.
But you're still increasing the meter rate.
Meter rate is going from $5 to $7 in the second scenario. Within the documents that were disseminated, there is Packet A, which is a group of documents that pertain to the first example, or the meter rate emphasis approach. Documents entitled B pertain to the per gallon cost emphasis approach. And then Packet C is comparison information that it's my understanding that the council has seen in the past as our rates relate to neighboring communities.
So can I ask a question? How much did the water utility take in this summer?
This summer?
I guess this 2018 that just came. The whole entire year.
So the whole entire year?
Right. Did we have a less usage of water by any chance?
We did have a low year, not the lowest. Julie Pequannock Township CFO is here to join us. Julie, if you could jump up to the table like the other gentleman did. The total revenue derived in 2018 was $2.559 million.
That was the total budget for the water utility?
What would we actually take in?
In terms of water rents or in total?
Total revenue.
Total.
Well, total revenue.
Which is the two.
I'm currently working on the year-end statements for 2018, but we did slightly above what we budgeted in water rents. I think we budgeted roughly about 2.2. We brought in slightly above that.
But the only reason I ask is it's been a very wet year, and a lot of people who are using sprinklers were not using their sprinklers.
Yeah.
Such as myself. I don't think I used it more than once during the course of the year, so I would assume that our water revenue would go down significantly this year.
Our budget in 2018 was a lot smaller than it has been in the past. So we budgeted a lot less in rents, and we only did modestly better than what we budgeted, so.
It already is kind of corrected.
Yeah.
The driest year was 2016, I believe, when there had to be an emergency done in order to get through.
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
And prior to that, the budget was several $100,000 larger.
Yeah, so the budget has been made smaller to kind of adjust for the increased rain that we've seen in the past few years.
The budget's around $2.7 million. The primary catalyst for the rate study to be undertaken and the conversation to happen is there was an addition of north of $6 million of debt on a $2.7 million annual operating utility. So there needs to be consideration of the ability to generate enough revenue to pay the debt service. So that was kind of the number one factor. Within the first fixed approach, theoretically speaking, all the users are using the system, all the users are benefiting from the system, so the idea of increasing the fixed rate was, well, it's almost like an assessment on the utility. Everybody pitches in a little bit more to pay the debt service. So the total amount derived from that change equals about 90% of the debt service. That was one of the drivers for that philosophy. The other driver from the per gallon cost philosophy is the people who use the system more pay more. So there's equal merit to the approach. It's just a different argument and a different policy.
So
still with the fixed meter rate, we're still paying less than.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a fan of the fixed metered rate and the very small increase of the gallon, price per gallon.
I'm a fan of that too, but I'm just a little confused. 2019, you want to charge $29.36 for the entire year for the water meter?
That is the rate for, that's the increase over the prior year for the average bill. So within the packets, for example, for the council, the average bill was calculated. And okay, so we have these two different scenarios. What is the impact on the average bill?
The average impact is $29.36.
So the impact on the average bill will be an increase of $29.36 for the quarter.
For the quarter.
If you go with the fixed approach.
Yes.
If you go with the variable approach, the impact on the average bill is $20.66. Of course, the average bill is less than 30,000 gallons.
Well, the average, yeah, well.
Our rate structure is such that there's a rate up to 30,000 gallons, and then there's a rate beyond 30,000 gallons. So currently, it's $4 up to 30,000 gallons, and beyond 30,000 gallons, $4.80. Within both scenarios, I just want to make sure I mention for the benefit of understanding, the same increase in per gallon, the same rate increase per gallon in the under 30,000 gallon rate is also applied to the over 30,000 gallon rate, to keep things in line.
Right, and again, looking at this, I would have to go with the increase in the meter rate, because I'm not so sure I agree with the average low usage that you guys are using. I look at my water bill and I go, oh my God.
Yeah, and it's a true mean, so it's a true statistical average, for lack of a better comparison. That's what.
So with the fixed meter rate in 2019 for the year, the increase is going to be $91.14. If we go with the average homeowner by the gallon, it's going to be an increase of $104.44.
Correct. So scenario one
is cheaper.
That was the total.
And it stays cheaper every year to 2024.
Yeah. And again, for the benefit of the people not looking at the spreadsheets, the documents were prepared in such a way that the ultimate rate is phased in over years. So there is a modest increase moving forward all the way to 2024, but again, using the average bill as the example, starting with the increase with the meter from $5 to $29. Next year, it's a $37 increase. Following year, $46, $49, or excuse me, in the water rate, $8.58, $8.79, $3, $3, and $3. That's for the quarter.
I think the best thing to do for the public would be with the $29 meter rate and the small increase, because, I mean, hey, every dollar in my pocket is better than in your pocket.
How about the dollar in my pocket?
Yeah. And again, the theory being it relates exactly to the fact that all this infrastructure was improved and is going to continue to be improved. The constructing these analyses was no simple feat. It included a lot of different people and a long time. If people were paying attention to this, we were initially going to have a conversation in December. We weren't. We didn't have everything buttoned up. And when you're talking about something that's this significant, you want to make sure you understand all the variables.
Sadly, Mr. Customer, your water's bad, but we're going to increase your rate.
Well, but the water was improved and will be improved by these improvements that we're funding and will continue to improve. So in order to operate the utility, we have to have revenue, otherwise we end up in a problematic situation.
Just so the public knows, the water tank that we currently have in Greenview Park, the average useful life of that was 40 years, and I think we're at about 50. And the one that we built on the top of Mountain Ave, we went with a concrete tank, and the average useful life of that is 100 years. So
outlast you and me, Dave.
You got that right. So, we went for the additional money so we could get a much greater useful life out of that.
And also amplifying what was discussed earlier, when you have a situation where you have water coming out of the ground and you're selling water, that when you have a dry year, you sell a lot more water, so your revenues go up. When you have a wet year, you sell less water. But regardless of whether it rains a lot or it doesn't, we still need to make our debt service payment, otherwise we default. So there is virtue in the fixed nature of it. When you're buying water and you're just wheeling it, meaning you just buy it from a third-party supplier and send it. Some towns, that's all they do is buy from another third-party person. There's less variability. So there are a multitude of assumptions, contractual salary increases in other items that have been built into this. There's a modest fund balance projected. Obviously, if we have a really dry year and sell a lot of water, we can do things like pay for capital improvements without borrowing money, and there are different strategies that can be employed so that we can adjust as we move forward.
Is there a commercial water rate or no?
It's
both like 50.
Yeah, most people in the commercial realm use over the 30.
So what do we need to do to...
Well, if there's a consensus of council,
I'm for the meter rate.
I'm for the meter rate.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
rate.
okay, then
Melissa?
Yes, it makes the most sense.
the next step will be the preparation of an ordinance for the council's consideration at the first meeting in February, which is February 12th. Provided council approves that, the public hearing and potential adoption would be on the 26th. And if adopted, the rate increase would be effective retroactively to January 1st, and it would be included in the bills that could be mailed out at the end of February or early March.
So let me ask you this question. I know you did quite a bit of homework on this. Where do we fall with our neighbors?
I think there's a
as far
rate
as
chart.
rate?
Yeah, there's something.
Yeah, there's a chart. The majority of the people on the chart haven't changed their rates in some time like us. So if either of these goes into effect, we're still about third from the highest. So
But we're anticipating other towns
To do the same.
to do the same thing.
yeah, and again, with the water quality issues, we all read the headlines, and we understand the concerns that came out of Michigan. There are new burdens being placed on water utilities. We have a very progressive, active management approach in the township. Credit to the council and the operator and Mr. Coriel. There are plans. They are exercising valve. They are doing infrastructure. But a lot of towns aren't doing that, and they're just kind of letting it lie, and they don't want to spend the money. So the DEP now requires, by example, a report on how you're managing all of this thing. Well, in order to get that report prepared, I have to pay an engineer about $20,000. So there are a number of additional requirements that I think everyone is going to be experiencing, and I think you'll see rate increases from our neighbors. So I think, not that it justifies the check you have to write, but in terms of keeping, pace or staying behind some of the high-end people, this wouldn't put us off the chart.
Okay, any other questions for this?
No.
Next on the agenda is reports and notices. There are no reports and notices. Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
Can I jump back in? I was remiss doing something. I apologize. I just want to thank Julie. Julie was hired as the CFO about 6 or 7 months ago, and let me tell you what, one of the first things you don't want to have to do when you start a new job as a chief financial officer is a comprehensive rate analysis. So I'd like to compliment Julie, and I'd like to thank everybody who participated on the team, because this was certainly not an Adam thing for everything. This was a massive team effort, predominantly done by Julie, so thank you very much.
Julie, jump
Thanks, Julie.
both feet in. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
Okay, real quick, the Economic Development Committee that I'm a liaison for, they meet tomorrow at 7:30 right here in this room. It is open to the public. We have 11 members on the committee. Members are appointed for 5-year terms. We ended up appointing 2 new members in January, so we have a full committee. So there are 11 members, and hopefully they'll all be there tomorrow. Also, I'd like to thank our township manager, Adam Brewer, for coming to the senior luncheon. I guess it was about a week ago. I think he had a good time, even though he was beat up a little bit. No.
I was posed with many great questions.
Yeah, no, it was great. The seniors had a luncheon at the senior house. Adam was kind enough to go in, introduce himself to those that haven't gotten to meet him, talk about his role and his background, and then they had some nice questions for him, gave him some nice hot soup, although I don't know if he had any.
I ate beforehand. I will be going back again in February to give them answers.
Yes, and he will come back in February to answer some of their questions. So they really appreciated you being there. And we put back together, not that it was ever a part, but there is a senior advisory committee. For the last 2 years, we changed the advisory committee and tried to meet at nighttime, and it wasn't working as well, so we went back to a daytime meeting. So the senior advisory meeting, there's 9 members. That's a full committee as well. They will be meeting on the first Tuesday of every month, and their first meeting is February 5th at 10:30 at the senior house. And the reason they didn't have one in January is we were doing the reorg meeting the day that they would normally have it in January. So their first meeting is in February. And then the flood committee, That group did meet. They have an 11-member board, and I believe all the members but one were there. So they did their reorganization and picked out their chair and vice chair. What was great was Jennifer McCullough, our flood advocate, who was hired, about a year or so?
About 18 months ago.
18 months ago. She is also attending the meetings, which has been really helpful to the group, because she's an employee of the town. She's at every flood advisory committee meeting, and it's just great having her there. So thank you. And that's it.
Okay, Councilman Hurd?
Alrighty. So, start with open space. Excuse me. Got updated on the NYS and W rail trail. It is moving forward. It's going to happen, I promise. Also talking about the next stage of what they want to do, and they're going to be focusing on aquatic park and developing that and connecting it to the Riverwalk. There was a great suggestion that was put out about more signs. So we do have a lot of open space and parks in town, but we don't really have good signage directing it to it. So a suggestion was if we could have better signage, and/or, in some of the state parks where you see a signage and then under the sign you see like a hiker, a little icon of a hiker or a tent or whatnot. Just brainstorming, is there a way that we can put those into the sign? So for example, if you're on the corner of Mountainside and whatever, you'd be able to see that up in Mountainside you could do some hiking. Or if you're coming down Jacksonville, you know that Greenview is on your right, go this way, or Mountainside is to the left. Again, great ideas. Definitely something we lack. Let's see, Grains of Hope. It's that time of year. It's going to be set up for March 24th. Sign up is going to start February 7th. And I had a question for council. Did we ever sponsor any meals? Do you guys remember?
Nope.
No.
Is that something you guys be interested in doing?
I don't know legally.
I don't know if there's an issue with that.
Yeah, there might be.
All right. Well, in the meantime, I'll find out.
Budget, you mean? Yeah.
No, individually, I'm thinking he's done.
Individually?
Oh, is that what he's... Oh.
Either or. I mean, individually, if we put it together, like we do a sign or something like that.
That's no issue. You can do what you wish individually.
Okay, so that would be a
But
suggestion.
no, we're talking collectively here.
Yeah, as a council.
Calling yourself the council?
Yeah, see?
Well, if not, we
I think people recognize you all.
If not, we can absolutely use your hands there as well. I know everybody really shows up anyway. It's something we've been doing
In the
for
past,
years.
we've all done that as a group.
Yeah. Let's see what else we have. Interesting conversation. This is kind of for you, Adam. I was talking to a friend of mine, councilman in Long Valley, and through their OEM, what they did after Irene, I wonder if we could do here. Basically, part of their upgrades were rewiring their main intersections streetlights. And basically what they did is they were able to get a grant for the generators. So they have 15 generators in DPW. And if an event happens, they could literally roll out the generators and hook up each one of the major intersections and have them run off a generator and not have an issue. I thought that was actually a great idea. So I told them I was going to steal it from them and tell you guys and see if there's something we can do about it. That was actually... And Long Valley, I believe.
Long Valley's, I think, part of that.
Yeah, there you go.
It's got me a lot of work rolling all those out.
Yeah. Well, the benefit is we're having a discussion about the hazard mitigation plan.
Right.
So in discussing the plan, it's always a good thing to have ideas to kick down the hopper, so I appreciate it.
Okay. So I thought it was a good idea. There you go. We have Teen Advisory Committee on Monday, and that's really all I have. Open Space is on the 11th of February. Now we're into February, so there you go. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Phelan.
I don't really have anything. It's a quiet 2 weeks, other than thank you all for going to the installation dinner on Friday. I think everybody had a great time. It was a wonderful place. And
Very nice.
It's an incredible place, yes, incredible.
Yep.
So that's it.
Councilwoman Russell.
I do want to start off by saying that Fireman's Installation Dinner was a wonderful event. It was great to see so many people there. 300, right, they said?
300.
Firemen paid for everything for us. Parks and Rec, we haven't had a meeting since our last council meeting. They will meet on the 4th of February. Environmental meeting, the next meeting is February 13th. At the last meeting, they discussed the teams of 2 going out and checking the streams for blockages. February 1st, we'll begin the sign up for the community garden, and the seedlings, the trees, go out on April 27th. Mine of which is still living, shocker.
Mine is dead.
Congratulations.
Yeah, yours was dead.
They're looking for barrels, for me to pick up barrels again. I don't
You know what? They did discuss the barrels, and yes, they will be looking for you. They're going to pre-cut the holes this year ahead of time so that there isn't so much going on that day. It got a little bit overwhelming for everybody.
So that's the water collection barrels?
Yeah, the
rain barrels.
rain barrels, because we did find somebody who actually has a bunch, but I think you're going to store them and then bring them over by the senior
We're going to
house.
store them where? Hey.
Well, maybe, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I know the answer.
Yeah, your name did come up, I'm just telling you. The library, we discussed the sprucing up of outside. She actually took all the plants, and instead of just throwing them out, she's so good, she went and brought them down to the florist, and they spruced them up, and she brought them back, so they look nice. They're looking at sound tiles for the new wing, trying to figure out what they're going to do to alleviate the sound there, and the next meeting on that is February 20th. That's it.
All right, I don't have much either. I missed the First Aid Squad meeting the second Monday of this month. I attended a swearing-in of a Pequannock resident who was sworn into the to the Pequannock Township Police Department. So I was there. I missed that. A couple other people from the First Aid Squad were also in attendance for that. Fair Housing will meet tomorrow night at 7 down in the conference room. And speaking of signage, I was asked by the high school if we are interested in updating our sign that is hanging on the fence.
I wouldn't mind donating money towards
I wouldn't. That's $500, I think, that we all contributed. We divided.
No, we not $500 a person.
Right. $500 that we divided, that we paid for ourselves.
So let me do the math. Hold on.
Well, hold on. We need to know if Mr. Brewer, we need to know if Mr. Brewer wants to be included in the sign.
Sure.
Okay, so it's going to be, I think, 500 divided by 6 of us. The sign does say that it's paid for by the individuals on the sign, so people don't think that we're putting that through the budget, so. So I'll tell them yes, I'll figure out what we owe and tell them to order a new sign.
How are they doing with the FBLA signs? Are they updating or continuing?
They asked me
a while ago.
6 months ago, I said, listen, we can't update it because, we're in the middle of an election. We're going to possibly have new people on council. And so they waited for us. So our sign has been up probably 6 months longer than it should have been.
Okay.
But
yeah, let's update that sign.
Yeah. All right. I will. That's all I have. Again, Fair Housing meets tomorrow night. So next on the agenda, we go back to public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. Bob.
Bob Morley, 4 Jacksonville Road, Pompton Plains. I have to write notes because I can't remember anything anymore. It's scary. Something occurred to me, and this is why I mainly wrote this down. As some of you know, I have a son in elementary school. Yeah. And he drinks water a lot. We encourage him to drink water a lot. Okay. Do you have a plan? Do you have a backup plan in case these levels don't come down come March? Because I don't want him to continue to drink this water. Is there a contingency? I don't care about the town, but the school should have a contingency that they don't have to keep drinking this water.
We can't speak for the school, obviously, because we're not the school, but the requirement for compliance within the acceptable levels is a year. We're hoping, optimistically, that there will be positive results as a result of the March test that Mark mentioned. We're exploring everything internally. It's not something that we can simply flip a switch. So
I understand. I was just wondering if there's a plan. Has anybody thought of a plan in place?
We're working on it.
Because, like I said, I'm old, so I don't really care. But he's young.
Your pipes are already rusted, Bob, right?
Right. Should have been replaced.
If you or anyone has specific concerns about yourself or a family member, the recommendation is to talk to your physician. Bring the information to the physician.
I'm worried about long time. If they're working on it and it gets better in March and April, I don't care. But come next September, we still have this problem. Then we have a real problem. And I assume it's not just me. I assume a lot of parents would have that same concern.
This is why we're asking to see the results that happen in March when they take the sampling.
Yes, but I was just wondering, is there a backup plan in case things don't come down? Specifically.
As of right now, we're working on every option possible. Do I have a specific backup plan and a list of contingencies?
I just need to know it's being worked.
It is definitely the top of the priority list, if not the number one priority.
Okay. Second thing, sorry, but and I apologize for my ignorance, but the professional services with the urban planning services, is this a town planner or is this specifically for low-income housing?
This is the administrative agent for the affordable housing program.
Okay.
So it's not for planning services generally to the municipality, it's specific to that program.
Well, then, this is the main reason I came here today anyway. I see it every time when I drive by here. We don't need another bank. We don't need another bank after that. We don't need another bank after that. We have, 275 banks in town? There's only 50 people. I know the ordinances and everything that are set up essentially don't steer any business, there's no plan, it doesn't appear to be any long-term planning. Do we even have municipal plan? Do we have a municipal plan?
We are working on a new master plan as you speak.
Did we hire a?
Yes.
H2M out of Parsippany.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were awarded the contract in the fall of 18. The kickoff happened a couple of weeks ago, and I would strongly encourage you, once the public input portions are launched, to give public input.
Which dovetails on this. This town needs to stop being penny wise and pound foolish. We're getting into a really bad. We're going to be paying a lot of price down the road because of we're worried about we're worried about $100,000 for this silly thing, and God forbid, I know what's going to happen with this, the meter raising. People are going to come in here with signs and pitchforks and you guys are being responsible.
Twice with the wind, Mr. Morley. You got me twice on that.
Okay. But you guys are it's something that has to be done, and, you're going to take a lot of grief for it, I understand, but it has to be done. And, and I don't want to see come March, you guys are all voting, it's like, oh, I can't do that because because you can't, you have to this town has basically been living off the fact that people don't want to move out and the kids move back in and kids move back in, but you can't continue to rely on that. And there's nothing propelling people forward. There's nothing current in this town right now. There's nothing to draw young people here who just don't happen to live here. Really, there isn't. I mean, what services do we have? We have nothing, realistically. We have we have great for softball fields, great for, everything that's been going on wonderfully, I guess, since the 60s. I don't know. I moved here in 97, so, but it seems that if you guys don't become aggressive and have some long-term plans and some aggressive long-term plans, we're eventually going to start falling backwards because not all these kids are going to keep coming back. So, Same thing with the public works projects. Oh, I'm sorry, and the last thing, just the last thing, and it's a pet peeve of mine, and I know that Turnpike was a county road, and I know it's a county project, but I know we have several township projects coming up. Whatever you can do to give the proper people the authority to make sure that our contracts are fulfilled, because like whoever the inspector was in Morris County, that was an embarrassment. So whoever's fulfilling this, I hope and pray that you support whatever your inspectors are, and hold these guys to the contracts, because I deal with contractors and I know how to, they'll do as little as possible, and we'll all be paying long-term prices for it. So I really hope you support, your employees that oversee these people. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Frank?
Frank Spazeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue. Ryan Hurd brought up the thing about the generators. I don't know how much electricity that you're talking about, the street lights or the...
Like the four-way intersection.
Intersection lights, the red lights. If somebody can determine how much wattage that uses, you might want to think about solar rather than dragging out generators all the time. You mount the solar panel right on the pole or close to wherever that box is that activates the red lights, and your problem is solved. You don't have to send anybody out. You just switch over to solar. Idea.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Sorry. Bob, you got something else to say?
Actually, just
come on up again.
Just something. Because I know I sound like a know-it-all, which I try not to be. I've written change orders on my projects where I have traffic lights with battery backups. I think if you do them in bulk, it's probably about $2,000 a light. Maybe a little bit more. Just a short story about that. I did the project at 22 Bonnie Burn Road in Union County, off of 22, Scotch Plains. Okay. 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they had this huge flood there. And literally the entire town was out of power. Everything in the town was black, except the 2 traffic lights that I installed, because they had the battery backups. That was literally the only thing that was working. So it's something you may want to investigate. So
Adam added it to his list.
I got it on my list.
There you go. Any other public comment? There being no public comment, next on the agenda is closed session, and we do have something for closed session, so do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Excuse me?
Oh, sorry.
Are there minutes to approve?
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
there are minutes.
Minutes to approve, January 2nd, January 8th.
8th.
Well, both of them you sent.
Yeah, January 2nd, January 8th. I'm sorry, did you say that?
Yeah.
I'll make a
I make a motion
motion.
to, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 2nd, 2019 and January 8th, 2019.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next
Thank
on
you.
the agenda is closed session, and as I said, we do have closed session, so motion to
Make a
go.
motion.
Second?
To close session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.